welcome everybody to the Words Matter podcast. We are here in Brooklyn, beautiful Brooklyn, overlooking Flatbush Avenue from the Gentleman's Factory. And I have a very special guest with me, Omar D. Hardware.
Yo, what's up, everybody?
Omar is a prolific writer. He's an auteur, director, film writer, screenwriter, author of novels, of fiction novels. And we are from the same hometown, Spring Valley, New York. So, it's major to be here. Thank you for coming out.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so, who are you?
Just like you said, my name is Omar. From Rockland. Who am I? It's a tough question. I'm still finding that out every day. I wake up every day trying to figure out who I am. So I can't give you a definite answer. As of right now, I'm a creative. Yeah.
And do you come from a background of writers?
Hell no. No. None of my family members are like writers or, think like no one from my background do what I do.
I mean, as a writer, you don't have that background, but I know a lot of times our parents are very big on education and grammar and punctuation. Even if it's not something you may have noticed while it was happening, as a kid, do you think that your experiences, say writing an essay or something, kind of puts you in the direction of eventually becoming a writer?
Speaking by like my parents' discipline?
I know my mom used to proofread my essays with a red pen.
Nah, so my mother, she worked double jobs like my entire life. So as my sister would be the one who would actually grade my stuff. And it's funny that you said that. I had my sister overshadow me pretty much all the way up until she went to college. And I would say I started middle school around that time.
Yeah.
So from the time she left, I didn't really have, I don't want to say I didn't have a tutor at home.
Yeah.
Someone I could go to. Like my mom, like someone was always working. When she had time, of course, she would look at stuff, but at the same time, these are new things that she didn't understand as well. You know what I mean? So it was kind of by the time I got to middle school, it was kind of a free for all for me. But up until then, I definitely had my sister overshadowing me with my education.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Takes a village.
Definitely take a village.
Yeah.
My sister is one. So even with my passion for writing really came from just my passion of storytelling, and that came from my sister as well. We used to share a room growing up, and she would have me watch all different type of movies and shows that my friends weren't watching. And whenever I would have time to really tap into what she was into, I would figure out this stuff is actually cool. It has a message, and it's better than, if it's not better than reading a book, it's as good as reading a book, because I still walk away with something, you know what I mean? And that always kept me growing up. That got me into binge watching and writing all different type of anything that comes to my mind.
What were those influences when you were young and you were binge watching? Because were you binge watching things as a kid, or because that's a term that I really didn't start hearing until streaming services came about, binge watching shows. But back in the day when we were kids, something came out, that was it. And you had to catch a rerun.
Exactly. So I wouldn't really call it binge watching, but unless you was catching a marathon of a show. But she had me, for me and my friends growing up, the only thing that I would stay up for was actually wrestling. Or like Keaton and Kelly and stuff like that, or that. But she had me looking for serious shows. More things with a message, more things about life. And I want to say, like, my first book, as far as even like Blood Cousin, my first book was inspired from the Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Oh wow!
She had me watch that weekly. You know what I mean? And I never understood, I never really understood the whole vampire world until I really tapped into that, and I realized a lot of the TV shows, even today, never their storyline to an extent. But there's numerous of shows, movies. She used to just take me out on regular, like on random Fridays, and she'll take me to the movie theaters to go watch whatever is out, and it would just keep me open-minded. It always keep me open-minded about what's out there in the world. You know what I mean? Yeah.
That was your education outside of just traditional academic, academia school.
I always believed, So like, I was one of those students who I wasn't academically bad in school. I wasn't on the honor roll. You know what I mean? And a part of that, I blame myself because my sister set a high standard. You know what I mean? She was on the honor roll, principal list, and I couldn't put people that hear that. Like growing up, I was looking at it like, I'd rather be myself, and if I can get it, then I'm right. And if I don't, I'm not going to beat myself over the head and not understanding this world. Because what I realized in social, if you pay attention to history books, anybody that's in the history book, nobody followed the rules. Anyone that you learn about, they never followed the rules. And their talents don't stop at what other people limit them to. So I always kept that in my mind.
And keeping that in your mind was that thing that. So it didn't discourage you as a kid that you weren't the best student because you always kept it in your mind that the world changers
for some
break the rules.
Yeah, for some reason I always knew. I'm not gonna say school doesn't matter, but I always knew school wasn't what they pushed us to believe, because half of the stuff we was learning, my family wasn't doing it on a regular. A lot of the stuff that we was learning, it didn't help my family make money. It didn't help anything. You know what I mean? And, one of my first questions I used to always ask my teachers in general is I would sit down and I'd be like, how is this going to help me in life? And if they can't give me an answer that satisfies my curiosity, I'm gonna stray away for a semester. And then once it actually matters, if I want to pass or not, then I would scrap it. Toward the end of the semester, I'm going to scrape myself up and I'm going to get my grades. But if you, as my teacher, can't tell me how this will help me how this will help me in life, then I feel like this is a distraction. And I can't give you my all, if you know what I mean. If I can't figure out how is this going to serve me, our future, it's a distraction.
Yeah, speaking of distractions, you said that with your sister, by the time that she was in college and you got to middle school, high school, it was more of a free-for-all. Explain that.
So, with that being said, we all used to, I feel like we all used to have a shared fear of our parents seeing our report cards
Yeah.
and progress reports and stuff like that. So like without an older sibling who was always like my mom's angel, who was always shadowing, there was no alert for her to know when things are there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like she would know, of course my parents would know when they should be receiving it.
Mm-hmm.
But without someone there to tell them that it's there, it's a free for all. Like I'm on my own. Like, you know what I mean? My parents are working 24/7, so they're not going to no parent teacher conference. They're not talking to no teachers unless, you know what I mean? Like it's urgent.
Yeah.
Like it's a free for all at this point. That's what I mean by that. My grade is totally up to me. If I want to pass, not to say that my parents listen. If anyone broke the drink home, they know how it is. Like they know how it is. But like once I took control of that, it was a matter up to me if I wanted to pass or not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like growing up, it's funny because growing up you get attached to different things. Like I always wanted to just be outside. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
I didn't want to read books. I didn't want to read books. You can like I read. Don't get me wrong. I read growing up. I didn't read what the school was giving me. I would read what my sister was reading.
What was she reading?
Reading like zine books and things of that sort. And that actually sparked my mom because they were writing. They had a different writing style than what they were teaching us in school, and that's when it's like it.
It was more relatable to you, that content?
It was easier to read.
Yeah.
They were talking in slangs, you know what I mean? And it was funnier, it was more entertaining, it was more about life, you know what I mean? Not that what we wasn't reading in school wasn't about life, but it was
The life that you could see on a regular basis, you saw it in those books.
It was easier to attach, it was easier to catch my attention and keep it, you know what I mean? I feel like schools, for me, I feel like if we had an easier way of teaching, all right, like, you know what I mean? You know, it'd be easier for me. I still graduated. You know what I mean? But I feel like, then again, I am different too. I was always a free thinker. You know, when somebody say, this has to be this way, I'm always going to be the person that questions why it has to be that way. You know what I mean? I'm a difficult one. I've always been a difficult one.
More into that I guess free for all era. Do you think that if you didn't experience that in your teens, would you ever become who you are now as a writer?
Every part of my life made me know I am. Every part of it. From my family members to my friends to my cousins to my coworkers to everybody that I came across. I don't know who I would have been if I, you know how people say if I went back in time. Even at that, you wouldn't even know who you are. You know, because those life lessons that you learn during those processes, it helped you be who you are. You know what I mean? And I don't know. Everything made me who I am. Because even like the stories, most of my stories that I come up with are relatable through my experiences outside, just being outside. You know what I mean? Someone that's inside, you could be as creative as possible, but you can't relate to what's really going on. You know what I mean? And the fact that I am able to write stories and I am able to sit down and read something, it makes me feel like, what's the word? It makes me feel valuable in my own way. You know what I mean? It makes me feel like I can give my life purpose. Like I could actually make a difference.
Yeah, because there's other people like you in the world, and other people can see the value in what you do. I mean, there's so many people in the world, but a lot of our experiences, a lot of our environments are the same. and people have from similar backgrounds. So yeah, so relatability is definitely a key. How hard is it to write a book?
Sorry. Well, actually, it all depends on you. It all depends on you and your writing process and what are you trying to tell the world. My first book was fun. It was not that it was I compared it to, but my first book was fun because it was exciting the process for me. Because I've never put my creativity to the test.
Yeah.
And even like with that whole process, anyone that was around me, because no one around, like I said, like no one from my family, none of my friends, no one I grew up with was writers. So anyone that was around me was getting drawn into reading what I'm writing. You can't spend 20 minutes around me and I'm not giving you my laptop and asking you to read this.
Yeah.
I want an honest opinion. You know what I mean? And I'm okay with constructive criticism. So, it all depends. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, but do you, how you said you can't spend 20 minutes around you and if you're writing something on your laptop, you have to give it to that person, but does it matter who is around you? Because, you might not value everyone's opinion when it comes to certain topics in life, but you value their opinions when it comes to other topics, but as far as like literature and film.
So a lot of when I wrote my first book, my social life went down crazy.
Yeah.
So, I couldn't maintain all of that. So it was a set few people that was seeing it, and not everybody could see me Monday through Friday. I had to be strict with my time schedule. I had to be strict with my life. You know what I mean? When I say anybody, I mean like my boys. You know what I mean? Family members who I would see during the process. A lot of people didn't hear from me. They're like, "Oh, Omar is funny, this and that."
Yeah.
I'm working on my, you know what I mean? I'm working on the whole story. I gotta come up with these motherfuckers, these characters' story. You know what I mean? I gotta come up with their life. You know what I mean? So I gotta take a step away from mine and give these people a voice and I gotta come up with a whole story that makes sense and give them a message. You know what I mean? Life don't stop. You know what I mean? So I still got bills. I still got people that I want to see. I still got things that I gotta accomplish as well. So it's really difficult sometimes.
What does your sister think? You being a writer now.
She's dope. She's dope. Because this is something that no one would expect. If you had known me 10 years ago, and everybody's doing a 10-year challenge. If you had known me 10 years ago, you would never have thought. You know what I mean?
What would people 10 years ago say now that they see you doing this?
They probably thought I joined the Illuminati or something. But nah, everyone's part of it. And that's like the most, that's part about it. Is that you actually have genuine love from people around you. And that's the best thing. That's really the best thing about it.
Was there anyone you knew, locally maybe, that could have possibly influenced you?
Oh yeah. There was this girl named Flows. She wrote a poetry book.
I went to high school with her.
Yeah, she wrote a poetry book. And I know her, one of my best friends married her best friend. So I knew her since young. And when she wrote that poetry book, I went to her book signing and I was looked at her and I was like, yo, you're fucking dope. Like, because this is different. And I read a few pages of it and I thought to myself, like, all right. She told me what she did. She told me on the side, she told me how she did it. And I said, you know what? Not that moment, but I knew that I could be making my own book. But it wasn't until I watched it at the time, I said it earlier, it wasn't until I watched it at the time that I was like, you know, I'm taking my future into my own hands. And she definitely was part of that inspiration as well.
Was it just because of she was local and she was talented, and you saw yourself in her, or like what was it specifically?
I definitely saw myself in her. I see myself in everybody because we're all one. Not to get too deep. we're all one. Living the same experience. But it inspired me because I knew who she was before the book. You know what I mean? So I didn't know what she was battling against. You know, I don't know her own story.
Yeah.
The fact that we came from the same environments and you were able to put something out, you were able to get something to the world that no one can take back from you is awesome. Like, it's great that you can create something and no one can take that shit back from you. You know what I mean? That stamp that you was here. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you live on planet Earth. You know what I mean? How the shit plays out.
Documentation is definitely important when it comes to just culture in general. Like a lot of people like to say the culture, you know, whatever that means, but just the culture, just documentation of that is so important. It has to, you know, especially when it's documented by the people, the active participants, you know, not just, it's cool when people can, from the outside look at it and see a culture and document it, but to be, you know, a primary resource of a culture and document it, you know, nobody can ever change a narrative, especially these days. You can't really lie about things or make things up because it's easy to find out the true originators. So documentation is definitely important. What did your parents or your friends say about this? I mean, you lost a lot of your social life, but when the products came out, when the work came out and it was tangible, did people finally understand?
Yeah, like, what the hell? Because, like I said, so I definitely wasn't double English in middle school. You know what I mean? Like, so everyone's like, everybody's looking at me like, oh, bad. What the fuck? You wrote a book? Because most people talk about it, but you actually did it. You know what I mean? And it's like, cool. And then I got a lot of genuine love, and I got a lot of, you know, like, what the fuck? You know, like, what the fuck? Alright. But it was dope, you know what I mean? My family's like, where's the money at? You know what I mean?
They don't understand. It's a process.
Of course. But the shit was cool. Everything about it, the journey was cool, man. It's my life. It's like I took my life into my own hands. You know, not waiting on luck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
What do you think it takes to become an author? Because you don't come from that background.
Just discipline.
Just a writer and general author, discipline.
Discipline. Maybe discipline. You gotta be passionate. Like I said, you gotta be passionate about what you're writing about. You know what I mean? You're not gonna, if you're not truly passionate about it, you're gonna lose interest in it. Maybe a week into whatever you're writing about. You know what I mean? So like, I would say discipline, passion. You gotta be able to take constructive criticism. I would say they don't take much. If you truly want to be an author, then you already have what it takes to be an author. Honestly, I can't tell you how to write a story because we all got different paths.
But for kids who, just people who were like you, who weren't the best writers, or in double English, like you said, you know, they might wanna know more about, you know, say they wanna become a writer. How did they get out of that feeling, you know, potentially feeling like they can't do it because of, you know, not being historically, you know, good academically?
So back to what I was saying earlier, one of the first few things that I noticed in school was everyone that we learned about, nobody that we learned about following rules.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You gotta obviously be educated enough to know how to play the game. Once you know how to play the game, switch it up. You know what I mean? And when I say that to say, like, wait, what was the question one time?
Oh, just asking because you weren't always, you know, what does it take if, you know, you were not the best student? So somebody else who may have been like you growing up.
All right, so I'm sorry, yes, so I was Marshall. So what I say that to say this, so like, nobody, I don't want to get too deep, right?
Oh, you could.
So like, I feel like one of the reasons why I wasn't always a good academically school kid is because I can't blame my church, but it's also because I went to church as a kid and they gave me another reason to life. They told me that life is about serving God and this and that. And when you go to school, God don't live in school. You know what I mean?
Let's tell you, Catholic school.
I didn't go to Catholic. Yeah. I went to public school. And then even when you go out, like, I live so much different lives growing up. Yeah. I've been around so much different people and lifestyles growing up where I always knew no one ever said what life is really about. And everything that we are using and watching and consuming, somebody made it. You know what I mean? Somebody either made it up, somebody either created it, made it up, or put it in motion. But like, no one told them it was okay to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's because they wanted to do it. So like, disregard whatever your school base may be. No one can stop you as a human being to be whoever you want to be. You know what I mean? You can't limit yourself because of what other people may think. And a lot of people just follow the crowd. 80% of everybody is just following the crowd. No one is really themselves. Yeah, man. So if I would just say, just believe in yourself. That's the key to everything, is believe in yourself, because whatever is meant to happen will happen. You know what I mean? You may try to be an author and then you may find out you want to be a filmmaker in the process of it. You know what I mean? So it's like,
Speak about that. You know, becoming a filmmaker, becoming you know, an auteur, like a writer, a screenwriter, and director. You know, not only did you write the film, but you directed it. How do you go from never even thinking you were going to become an author of books to writing a film? Yeah. Well, how do you end up becoming a film writer, a screenwriter?
Betting on myself. During my first pandemic, I've had time to learn how to write screenplays. I was actually going to hire somebody to write a screenplay for me. And my homeboy told me to save your money. He said, stop being lazy, just learn the new format, you already know how to tell stories. Once you get execute this, you can make money on your own. You know, you can literally hire, people will literally hire you to write screenplays. And follow his fucking advice. And I want to say maybe like a month or two after I read a book called Save the Last Cat, watched a whole bunch of different tutorials on YouTube. I had some money saved up for my job. But hired a production team and we hit the road. And it felt exciting because it was like I was going into the unknown. You know what I mean? Like I didn't know what the next. I could, as much as you plan, without like a job behind you or some shit, you don't really know what's next. And everything is on the. I was a director, I produced it, and I wrote it. So like a lot of I had no one to call when things got sour. You know what I mean? So it was exciting and scary experience as well.
Talk about that fear. That fear of, it's so much fear, like quitting your job. You got money saved, but you know, how long you don't know when or if you're ever gonna make money off of the film, or just the fear of what you're writing and directing not being good. Let's talk about that fear.
Shit, the fear is real. Because off grid, I knew I'm going to be judged in general for it being my first film, for even trying. Just for even trying, you're going to get judged. You know, the motherfuckers going to watch you and be like, look at this nigga trying. Yeah, look at this nigga trying, son. And niggas will laugh at you for trying. That's the funny shit. That's why you gotta take constructive. You gotta be able to take constructive criticism. You can't live in your fear. If you live in your fear, you're not living at all.
Well, that's a problem.
You have to take chances. Because you know what I mean? Like I said, I ain't waiting on luck. You know what I mean? Really, I learned how to do it. We're gonna take our future into our own hands. I was lucky enough to get people who were passionate about the project. So it wasn't just all me, in general. Everyone that was involved who wanted the same outcome as me. And I was blessed to have that. You know what I mean? It made my job, it made my life easier. But things happen, and you gotta be able to it wasn't just sunny sailing throughout the project, but you have to be able to prepare for things like that and not let that kill you. Can't let the potholes stop you from getting to your destination.
Who are the people that you seek counsel from when you are going through that fear creatively? Did you grow up around a lot of creative people?
My cousin, I grew up my cousin is big on music. He was always freestyling and shit like that. He had me thinking I could be a rapper one time. My other cousin is a basketball player. But artistic wise, as far as writing on paper, people can't be able to tell the story. I didn't have none of that going around me growing up. One of my older friends, probably met him. My older friend's his name is Saeed. He's a wrestler actually. Dope as hell. I met him later on in life. I met him when I was maybe 23, 24. And he was one of those people that was optimistic about life. And he reminded me, because I only hung out with a certain type of people up until like 23, 24. So like he was like your break from your norm. Because he was like your nerd, like your comical nerd, but he'll fuck you up.
Yeah.
Like, he's one of those dudes where it's like, alright. And he just had this optimistic view on life where it's like, you can be anything you want. And he reminded me that, like, if you wanted to be, I think I said this on another interview, but like, if you wanted to be a Power Ranger, you can dead ass go dress up, go to California, and go be Power Ranger for a day.
Yeah.
Nothing's stopping you. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's all about you and what fear is stopping you. The only reason why you wouldn't do it if you really want to be a Power Ranger is you fear that you're losing friends or some shit like that. But like, honestly, who are you living for? Who are you living for at this point? I'm not advising you guys to go be a Power Ranger. I'll just give that example.
As a, keep saying film, your movie's called Love Gone Viral. So, and that was recently released on, it was in December. What day was that? December 19th. And I've been seeing clips and promotional things on Instagram about it for a while, maybe for about over a year before the film was released. And I just love the fact that people from Spring Valley, people from Rockville, people from Spring Valley specifically are in the film. People that don't even have an acting background in the film, we gave them a chance. And a few other people who have a small acting background. But Love Gone Viral, speak about the process of writing that and directing that, and just everything that led up to it finally being released.
The story itself was originally a short story. I wrote it to make one of my coworkers laugh at work. Like I said, like a lot of people in my life just serve different purposes. In a way, like my coworker, she would motivate me. Not even like, she would just motivate me to continue writing. And she would just read my stories every week she would something. So with that being said, when I learned how to write a screenplay, I had options to pick from, but I remember her specifically loving that story. So I tweaked the story a little bit, and I had maybe 1 or 2 people proofread it as well. They had a thumbs up. First thing I did was go hire a production company. And, well, I did a casting before I hired a production company, to be honest with you. I went around and I tried to find people who fit the characters to the team. So they didn't have to act too much. And once I was able to find a team, find a production company, and the rest was history.
How do you cast? You said that you try to find characters that are close. You try to find actors that are close to the characters. How do you do that without offending certain people? Because certain characters may not be portrayed as the best. So then when you say, well, let me pick you because you're most like this character, how do you explain that artistically to an actor?
That was a learning curve for me as well, because I definitely didn't know how to do it the right way the first few times. So I definitely put my friendships on, I jeopardized my friendships for roles. I would promise a role before actually seeing them audition. And then when someone actually auditioned for it and they were good, I would have to go back with the,
you might have to lie a little.
Like, yo, I know I told you this, but homeboy right here, he, you know what I mean? And I would look like a funny dude, know what I mean? So like, this is, I had to learn that, and it was tough. So right now, I just don't promise. I don't make promises. You audition, and if it works, it works. But the first time for me, that was my mistake. It just, my experience, I was making promises for this, my first film.
Yeah.
And I should have. But the casting call wise, you just, I'm from Rockland. It was like a Rockland film. We would consider this a Rockland film. So like, I kind of had people in mind while I was reading the script, and it wasn't that difficult for me in general to like find certain people for certain roles, because I had trust in their abilities to execute.
Yeah. Did you know everybody in the film?
No, I didn't know everybody. I met my main character through the casting process. I met the production company, honestly, during the whole filming process, before the filming process, clearly.
Yeah.
I knew mostly everybody, but our bond got stronger during the film because we had our backs against the walls. You know what I mean? It was us trying to make things happen. If the world is shut down, we outside making a movie.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. All of us.
And then you got it in the movies. You know, I've seen some movies where they'll incorporate the fact that we're in a pandemic in the movie and people be wearing masks, or TV shows people be wearing masks in the show, or you might see a scene where it's a clip of the news and the news anchor's talking about the pandemic. But then other films, other TV shows that I watch, it's almost like it's a completely different world than the world that we're living in. In that world, in the movie, no one's wearing masks. The pandemic doesn't even really exist, but in our world, you know, everybody's walking around with masks. So, did you decide to, because in your movie, you know, basically COVID doesn't come up. So, was that just like a conscious decision?
Yeah, because it's funny because right now I feel like this face mask thing is gonna be a new normal.
Yeah.
Like when we were shooting it, I was thinking like if we do get out this pandemic, I don't want the film to only stand for the pandemic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Might not age well.
exactly. So I kind of wanted to leave it alone, and I was lucky enough to get venues where we were able to keep a certain amount of people in there.
Yeah.
And it was all able to work out.
I always hear about acquiring licenses, and permits, to record, to film in certain places. Did you have to get any of those?
I had to get permission everywhere. My church, the church scene, had to get permission. Hospitals.
That was your church?
That wasn't my church.
Oh.
It was a friend of mine's. And it's funny because that church took the longest for the green light. I personally, for every location that you see there, in the film, I personally went to every location and asked them, can we shoot here? It was either yes or no, or, get the run around. The church, I got to run around for about 2 months in general. I didn't even know who was able to shoot it. And I was venting to a friend, and they were like, yo, I work at a church.
Yeah.
It just literally,
wow.
I'm literally,
stars align.
I'm literally just venting. Yeah, I work at a church. Why do you say it looking like I can make them through up? Well, the rest was history. But like, I definitely had to get permission for everything. I'm not trying to get. I'm not trying to be a year into the film and somebody watching it and be like, "Oh, you ain't say this. You ain't say you doing all of this," and now we back to square one. You know, you gotta get that out the way.
What writers, film writers, directors influence you to write Love Gonna Write Viral? Is there a movie or a style of movie that you drew inspiration from?
Not for that movie specifically. And you know why I actually love this movie in general? Because it is cut from a different cloth. Like, you can kind of, it's not as deep as Baby Boy. If anything, if I could compare the movie to anything, I would say maybe Baby Boy, with the Jody and his baby mom and the whole situation. But I've never seen.
I didn't even think about it like that. It is kind of similar in a way.
I've never seen a woman drag her baby dad before. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like, but that happens.
But yeah, I mean, Yvette did that and Baby Boy, so he enjoyed. But she took him back.
But the concept of what was going on just sounded so bizarre when I was writing it, and I was like, yo, this is crazy. Like, any story that makes me like laugh and like smile as I'm writing it, it's just like, yo, this is crazy. This is funny. I just enjoyed it. I can't compare it to anything, but I've never seen somebody get dragged like that and be defeated like that and still win at the end. Like, it was different. And then you have his cousin here who thinks he's helping him. He's just making life worse.
I guess his cousin was helping him in his own way. You know, he might not know how to be vulnerable with him. So I mean, he took him in. That was help. But you know, as he's he's laying on the couch. He just cooking him every day. You stink. Blah blah blah. Your lease is up. So I guess he had. I guess if you could compare it to Baby Boy, his cousin is Jody's mom in a way.
Nah, he definitely, Jamal was definitely his kind of guardian angel, you say, in some type of way, because he needed somebody to keep it real with him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And not all of us have that. And not all of us have someone that's going to sit and put up.
Hold them accountable.
Yeah.
I want to go back to your books. Your first book was Blood Cousins. That was 2017. And then your second book was The Wolf in Me in 2020. That's a 3-year gap between those books. Why was there a 3-year gap?
Why was there a 3-year gap? Contemplating on writing a second version of Blood Cousins, honestly. At the same time, trying to also catch up with my social life because I feel like I took a hit. I'm gonna say also just thinking about the right story. Like The Wolf in Me. It just so happened that one of my best friends had lost a dog to a car accident. She loved that dog. The dog name is Molly, the name of the real one. And I, like that weekend, like the whole idea of everything just came to me. And just started writing from there. But like in general, I didn't want to only be known for empires in the hood. You know what I mean? I was contemplating on how I could break out, how not break out, but how to not be boxed in into just one category. Because I only be known for different things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And I think that the mix of genres with that book, it's a fiction book, but it's almost like a crime drama at the same time, and then at the same time it's science fiction, and it's well, not science fiction, fantasy. It's fantasy, so that right there will broaden whatever you could go into in the future and how you'll be perceived. So that was a conscious decision also, like
for the time gap?
no, not the time gap, but just the blending of genres.
Yeah. Man, I was so excited when I first started writing. When I started writing, and the first 4 people said this shit is good, I was gassed. Right? At this point, I'm like throwing everything into like, if you see like the thickness of my book, it's like
the first book is pretty thick.
Yeah, like I was all over the place. Like anything that, I'm not gonna say anything that came out of my mouth. The worst part of that whole process was the editing process. When I got my first editor, and she told me that I didn't need to be seeing all of this extra stuff, and I'm just like, oh, I gotta take it away. That was probably like the most heartbreaking moment of writing. That is the most heartbreaking moment of writing. Just finding out what can't stay. And there be moments like there be pages that got deleted. I done spent like maybe a day or 2 even coming up with this shit. Like, you know what I mean? And just like that, it's scrap.
But it worked out, I'm sure. It worked out for that. And you listened to the editor, so you value their opinion. You had to hire an editor for Love Went Viral. What was the editing process for The Wolf and Me and Blood Cousins? Like, how did you say, how did you decide that I'm going to appoint this person to edit this?
The person that edited Wolf and Me is a different person that edited Blood Cousins. The first person my first editor was the universe, of course. I remember I was at Starbucks. He was at Starbucks, and I had my laptop getting a drink. I honestly don't remember how the conversation sparked, but shortly I met my editor at Starbucks while she was getting coffee.
Yeah.
And we started talking, and it worked out. Like, I kept her number, and maybe like 3 months later, I called her, sent me a contract, and it worked. You know what I mean? So, and she didn't give me away with the price, because I gave her, as thick as my first book is, in theory.
Wow. It was so big. It was on some Harry Potter.
Yeah, for no reason. I thought it was for no reason. I wanted to try it, man. For no reason.
The bitchy code.
She didn't kill my pockets. And it worked. My second editor, I found her on Fiverr. we follow each other on social media. Because you typically can't do that with your the people that you hire on Fiverr. They're typically private people, but this person, she was editing my other short stories. So like I had in between Blood Cousins and Wolf and Me, I had other stories that I kept to myself. And I would have someone clean them up.
Yeah.
And she was my person. She's from African descent, and she was easy to work with. Not that the other person was easy to work with too, but she was more of my nationality. And I never chopped out aside from her since. Believe it or not, she edited the short story for the book for me. Not the script, but the actual short story that I wrote. She definitely was one of the editors, like she edited that story as well. The process right now, I feel like I was thinking about writing my third book. I was thinking about putting the third book out. I have stories that I can put together and give everyone, like a little surprise. I feel like right now we just find someone that sounds similar to you. You know what I mean? Like someone that can catch what you're saying, so it's not so much.
Yeah, there's a voice.
Yeah, back and forth. Yeah. Bible works though. I think I said right. Fiverr. That works.
There's so many resources, to just do things, to make a living independently. You take off. You don't have to have this humongous production, so it definitely helps. Do it yourself model. I mean, you put out both your books. You publish both your books through Amazon. You went independent right away. It was almost like a masterpiece of books. So in the future, do you ever, when you write more books, are your intentions to have your books published by a major publishing house like Simon & Schuster, one of those?
Hopefully that. I'm not so pressed on it because I understand that I do have different voices.
Yeah.
That some companies may feel like I'm what's the word I'm looking for? Liability.
Yeah.
Like somewhat liability. They don't know how confident my voice is. You know what I mean? So the independent route is cool because I don't need their permission to do better on work. You know what I mean? And if you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't.
Yeah.
But like I don't have to wait for someone else. Okay. But hopefully one day, if I get a publishing deal, great.
Yeah.
Great. But it's not stopping me. Trust that. It's definitely not stopping.
What I was going to ask. What is the importance of character development in your books? Because I feel that when I started to read Blood Cousins, chapter 9 is where it really started to make that change when the two main characters they found out that their dads died. I believe that was chapter 9. So you start to see every chapter you rotate between a different character. So how important is that to you to incorporate those methods into writing your books?
Not so much important. Character development is definitely important. That could make or break your story.
Yeah.
You need to have so much characters in there. Wherever you're writing, you need stories. I think it's important to know who your characters are before you start writing. It's funny, know your characters before you start writing, but don't be afraid to try it. When I say that, I mean when I write, I could have my whole outline finished. Like the characters would tell me what they would want to say, what they want to do while I'm writing it. So the story would change. Like it's not the same story that I got into it with. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
because the characters themselves are screaming for their own voice. So just take time. Take time to know what you're about to write and get into it, so everything can come out good, like a good masterpiece.
Like a good what?
A masterpiece.
Yeah.
You don't want to rush anything. You want all your characters to get her the right way. You want their stories to be told good. You know what I mean?
Do you feel like you have a masterpiece?
I feel like all of my work, I don't have a favorite so far. Like I don't have a favorite book.
Yeah.
I only have one film so far. The film right now, you could say is my masterpiece right now because I feel like I tweaked. I was able to correctly, I was able to, in the right way, to get grown people to work together. Like the books is on me.
Yeah.
The books is on me. I do that all the time. It was the fact that I was able to get a hold of grown adults, get a hold of their schedule, give them something that, give them a role.
Yeah.
And they saw the same vision as me. And some characters even took their roles into their own hands. You know what I mean? And I think it was dope that I was able to get people from the town. If they weren't even acting, they had their clothing lines, they had their music.
Yeah, I understand.
And it was just one big, magical, artistic moment. At this moment, I feel like it's just it's one of those damn artistic times. Like we're always gonna have that. Like as far as whatever comes out from my film going forward, this moment right now is dope because we all lifted each other.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like if it was done before, I might have overlooked it, but right now, I feel like it's the first time we all came together for something positive.
Yeah.
And
You mean like in the history of like you living in Rockland? Like this?
I'm pretty sure we all come together for positive things, but I mean, like, for an artistic reason.
Yeah.
You know, we put together a project that didn't exist before.
So many people do.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, we manifested a vision that didn't exist before. And the message, low key, as little as it is or as big as it is, the message means something to somebody one day. You know what I mean? Somebody was going through what Eric was going through. And I said Eric, I said the character's name is Jude. Somebody could be going through what Jude is going through. And they had, you watching him funny, he hit the boss and say, fuck, I'm not going through this anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And people like, well, you go somewhere else and they get their shit together.
Do you think that Jude is weak or is Jude strong?
I feel like it's not even that there's a part of him that's he's weak, but he's not weak. Why I say that is I feel like he should have dated a woman more of his speed.
Like who he ended up with?
Yeah, but then at the end, you know what I mean? Like, if you're not with the right person, you're always going to be tested. Like, you know what I mean? Because there's really, not everyone has to be gangster. Not everyone has to be a rapper, or not everyone has to be a street person. You know what I mean? And if your woman understands who you are, she want to put you in those type of situations.
If she respects you.
She respects you. She want to put you in those type of situations. So I can't say he's weak, but he definitely made poor decisions, and it cost him.
Yeah. What do you think it cost him?
It cost him a lot. It cost him his job.
Yeah.
It cost him his peace. It cost him. It cost his son having. It cost his son having a real family.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I feel like there are people that keep walking around, and I want to take. I'm trying to say how to say this. Shit. I don't know if I can say it. I don't know. June. Andrew's a big guy, but he's a big guy, but it's only from society.
Traditional standards of what masculinity is. He's weak.
Exactly, but he's your typical. Honestly, he was working his job. I don't know what Tamika wanted from him.
Yeah. she wanted, you know, it happens sometimes, you know, somebody can get with you and whoever they, you know, they think that they're with you for you, but, you know, then they try to change you. So that might, you know, if you were to go deeper into the storyline, you know, and you know, just for like the viewers, and just hypothesize maybe that that, you know, she wanted, I forgot the name of the Tamika's man, the new guy, Quay. Yeah, she really wanted Quay in Jude's body. yeah. So, but that happens. Do you know any stories similar to the story of Jude and Tamika that you would draw inspiration from?
Nah, that was totally off the brain.
Yeah.
That was totally off the brain.
It's good because a lot of the storylines in movies now, I feel like it's just recycled storylines, either an adaptation of a book that came out, or adaptation of a comic book, adaptation of the same movie, but this new one is a remake, or adaptation of a TV show that they turned into a movie, a biopic. So, you know, it's an original storyline. And, you know, for you to be doing that independently is definitely a breath of fresh air. The end of the movie, well, the beginning and the end of the movie, the slogan is created with life lessons. So, why did you choose that?
That's not me. That's my cameraman's production. Yeah, I actually love how it looks, and I love the name of it. His name is Kelvin. If you were to shoot with him, you are shooting with creative with life lessons.
Oh, so that's what, it's not like a.
That's his thing.
Okay, I thought that was like something that you added as like a moral of the story or something like that.
It worked out.
Yeah.
I think that's why I'm not gonna. He himself grew invested into the project as well, because he loved the story of it, he loved the message of it, and he loved the people that were a part of it as well. So it all played out for this universe.
Have you ever, when writing Love Gone Viral, Blood Cousins or Wolf and Me said, man, fuck this, like, I'm not doing this no more, like, I'm gonna scrap this whole thing, I don't care how much money I spend, it's too much of a hassle, too much of a headache, heartache.
Oh yeah. It's not a typical hustle. You know what I mean? Like, all my friends, my friends just there, the typical guys, motherfuckers be outside. Everybody's hustling. I mean, everybody's trying to get different things. I'm out here trying to do something that wasn't even cool when we was growing up.
Yeah, you consider lame or something.
You know what I mean? So like, I'm all the way going against even me because I wasn't doing this growing up. But I just grew a passion about writing things that I like to write about. So it's hard to like, you can't flex your pen, you know what I mean? You can't flex with your, you know what I mean? But once it's done, it looks cool. But the process, it gets overwhelming sometimes. It's hard for me to tell somebody that I'm not like there, like I'm mentally not there because I'm somewhere else. And not that all of this stuff don't matter, but like the story matters the most right now. And it sounds selfish and it sounds like, you know, it sounds crazy. So like, it's always going to be crazy until it works. You know what I mean? I'm always sounding crazy about it until it works. That's the life that I'm always, that's the life I'm living right now. Like, you know what I mean?
That's the life of a creator.
Yeah.
For sure. And like you said earlier in the beginning of the episode, you said that, you know, look at the most important people in the world, people that changed the world, they didn't follow the rules. So, you know what?
Obviously, you can't follow the rules and expect a different life. Because that rules was set for you to be like someone else. You don't know what you're trying to be like.
The title, Love Going Viral, is it's very timely because when things become popular and they become popular on social media, it says going viral, it's going viral. That term, that was a word that existed before the internet, but in a medical capacity, like with viruses, stuff like that. But it makes sense, you know, if I don't want to spoil the movie for anybody who walk in and watch it, but what does that title mean to you? If, you know, just to, without spoiling the premise or without spoiling the movie for somebody.
The title means to me. Love on a brand platform. Like, I would, when I hear love on viral, I just think about love that's on the big screen. Like, we are all watching your love story. You know what I mean? Like, we see what's going on. It's usually what happened. Your home is a see-through, it's a glass home. You know what I mean? I can see what's going on inside your relationship.
What feedback have you been getting, positive and negative?
I haven't gotten anything negative yet. If anything, people are just excited. Everyone's just excited. Everyone wants to work to it. If there was anything negative, I'm thinking about it, it probably was, we could have done a better ending. But that's not even, because that's not even a negative, because it's one of those, I feel like the way we ended it was a cliffhanger. I feel like if we wanted to pick it up, we could pick it up at any point and continue, like it never ended. You know what I mean? As far as positives, everyone loved it. Everyone was a part to. Everyone is amazed at what we can do as a team. I hope I inspire people to shoot their own stuff as well.
Blood Cousins and the Wolf of Me, what was the positive and negative feedback that you received from those books?
like love going viral. Everyone loves the ending to both of my books, to be real with you. The way, no, I can't. The wolf in me probably breaks people's hearts. I'm not gonna lie. People don't like how the way the wolf in me ended. I'm pretty bad at ending stories. You know, one of my things is I always, I'm not even flawed, but just like my thing, I don't always like a happy ending. I don't think it's always realistic.
It's not.
You know what I mean? So like if I could find a way to like beat the cliche, I'm gonna do it every time.
Yeah.
Every time I'm gonna find a way. I feel like the way Love Won't Bar is really cliche and everything. But as far as my stories, no negative blood cousins. Everyone was part two. I'm probably get cursed out at for not having a part two out yet.
For
My first book,
before you book it.
Blood Cousins. That's probably the only negative that I don't have a part two out yet. And everyone's been invested into Isaiah and Joaquin.
Yeah.
And they want to know what's going on. They're ready for more shit.
I mean, I was just saying how there's not a lot of original stories in film, but let me contradict myself. You could make a film adaptation of one of your books.
That's right.
Yeah, you can do that.
I want to do one for Blood Cousins. I want to make one for Blood Cousins, but I just want to, when I know 100% what I'm doing, that's when I don't want to sell a cheap version of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I would ensure 100% of what I'm doing.
Have you ever experienced writer's block?
Of course. All the time. It's natural.
Yeah. What do you think of those blocks psychologically?
It's a moment for me to go do something else.
Yeah.
It's a moment for me to break from wherever I'm doing to go do something else.
Live life.
Live life. Usually it's funny because I would have a writer's block, and then sometimes it varies. Like I have writer's block for a day. Sometimes it go up to a couple months. To be honest with you, but once you break free of it, it starts flowing. Yeah, it's water flowing. And it's like it's God telling me to go live, because sometimes like I don't even know why it took me so long to even come back to this. Like, you know what I mean? That you can't rush it. You don't want to rush mistakes anyhow.
Yeah, art is a reflection of reality, so you're not gonna really put out your best art if you didn't live enough life. And people also wanna know that you live life. You consume what you put out. So it's also good that you were a different person 10 years ago, or you were a person that 10 years ago people could be like surprised that you're this person now. But that helps you. That's actually advantageous to you. So, what's next for you? What's next for Omar D? Auteur?
I'm definitely going to shoot another movie.
Yeah.
I want to get into app development personally.
App development?
I have ideas for apps.
Cool.
I'm just waiting. I'm trying to find the right people. Maybe I'm watching this and make a freaking app. I'll add me something. That's what I did. But I work now. I'm in the medical field. I'm a medical assistant, which is pretty dope. I draw blood and help my doctoral day. So I like the fact that I feel like I'm making, I know I'm not saving no lives, but I'm a part of a system that's helping people. You know?
Yeah.
So like when I'm not writing, I'm not filming, somewhere it's helping someone get a medicine or making some type of, I'm living some type of purpose throughout my day.
Yeah.
But so just more work, man. Just be prepared for more work. Nothing ever stops. Nothing's gonna stop. You know, I'm gonna put out another movie hopefully next year. And that's more intense and more jaw dropping for you guys.
And why do words matter to you?
Because that's what separates us from other animals. We are the only species on Earth that can manifest. We are the only species that can think about an action before we do it and actually manifest wherever we want. And a lot of people forget that. We are somebody on this planet. And
Complex species.
we are a complex species, and after you go through all these everyday trials of distractions, you just forget yourself. You would dead ass forget yourself. You just gotta remember what you are, what your purpose is, and what you want to die for. Like, you know what I mean? Like, when you die, what do you regret? You know? What do you regret not doing?
That's all?
That's all for me. Is that all for me? Or I just go to Peace Man early?
Yeah. Yo, so yeah, thank you for coming. Thank you for coming to Words Matter. Thank you for coming down here to Brooklyn and being a part of this. Definitely learned some things, very insightful. And stay tuned, man. It's Akil and we got Omar. Words Matter.
I appreciate you back.
All right. Of course.